Welcome back to our live coding session for the proposed ASRJC Alumni Portal Student Project. Remember, if you would like to have the full code, you can find the link to our public GitHub repository in the description. So, let's continue the fun and dive into the carousel functionality of the index.html page. This section dynamically displays a series of images from the alumni events, creating an engaging visual experience right on the homepage. Let's break down the code to see how it's implemented and interacts with the JavaScript. Each part here is wrapped in an img tag. The images are sourced dynamically, which allows for easy updates via the backend. We set up a div with class main content wrapper. Next, we also define a section with the class gallery. Next, we set up a div with the class Carousel. We then set up another div called Carousel Slide. This inner div holds all the images we want to display and will be used by the JavaScript to get all the slides to display. Next, we are going to code the dynamic loading of the images using the percentage sign. Percentage is used within the Jinja templating syntax. Jinja 2 is a web template engine for Python, and it's the default template engine for Flask. This syntax allows for dynamic data insertion into HTML from the backend code. Let's delve into how it's used in this project and relate it to Flask's feature and tools. Percent for image in images percentage sets up conditional loops over each item in an images list passed from the Flask route. Each item, img, represents a path to an image that is to be displayed in the carousel. The next line, img src equals to img alternate equals gallery image, is used for outputting the expressions of the template, and it is to interpolate variables into the HTML, like displaying the image path src equals img. The percentage and for percentage part is to close the loop, and finally the slash div is to close the class carousel slide. When we use this Jinja's Flask render template function, we need to pass data from the Flask application to the template context. So, we need to add a route and routes.py with a function that fetches image paths from a database or file system and passes them to the template as a list. We will cover this shortly after we complete the HTML code for this carousel section. Let's continue to finish this section first. Two navigation arrows, marked with A text, call the plus slides function with the parameters -1 and 1. These arrows allow users to navigate through the gallery manually. This function is part of our Carousel.js file, which we'll get to after we are done with the routes.py code. Next, the slash div part is to close the div class carousel, and the slash section part is to close the section. Let's now go to the routes.py file and add in the routes to handle the render template function. Firstly, we import OS, which is used for interacting with the operating system. It's essential in the function to create paths to the static directories and to handle file listings. Next, we are going to import from Flask several functions as below. So, firstly, blueprint from Flask is used to create a blueprint of our application, where main is defined as a blueprint for handling routes. It allows us to organize our application into distinct components. Next, render template allows the HTML template to file. We use render template to render the index.html file while passing dynamic data such as upcoming events, newsfeed, and images. Current app is used to access the application instance for the active application. It's necessary for accessing configuration details and the app context, such as the root path in this scenario. These are the main ones that we need to know for now, but we will need to add more later to this line as the project progresses and needs more functions. Main for this new part initializes a new blueprint named main to organize related routes and resources in a Flask application. Let's start the routes for the website. This is a decorator from Flask that specifies the URL endpoint for this function. Here, / denotes the root URL, which means this function responds to the main homepage access. Def_home defines the function home, which will be executed when the root URL is accessed. The next code retrieves the root directory of the Flask application, constructs a path to the gallery folder inside the static directory. This is where your application expects to find images for the carousel. Next is the error handling. We begin with a try block which attempts to execute the code inside it, but will switch to the accept block if a specific error, which is file not found error, occurs. The next line will attempt to list all files in the image folder directory. The list comprehension iterates over each file in this directory, joining static/gallery with the file name to create a path that can be used in HTML templates. These paths are stored in the images list, which will be used to dynamically load images into the carousel file on the home page. Next, this next block catches a file not found error, which would occur if the directory specified does not exist. When this error is caught, the images list is sent to an empty list, ensuring that the application does not crash and can handle the missing directory gracefully. So next, the images part says that to handle the case where the directory is not found. For the next line, this statement renders the index.html template, passing it the images. Now that we have defined the routes for the home page and managed the render template, let's look at the JavaScript to handle the carousel function in Carousel.js. But before we do that, we need to ensure we have a link in index.html to the Carousel.js file. So, firstly, we have to add the link to the Carousel.js script just before the close of the body tag. Now, let's go to the Carousel.js file. We add document add event listener DOM contact loaded function, which ensures our script runs after the entire page has loaded to prevent some errors that can happen if the page hasn't fully loaded. The next line, which is let slide index equals to 1, allows the images to start from the first slide. Slide index keeps track of which image is currently displayed. This next line fetches all the children of our carousel slide class, which are our images.